All right, we've been in the book of James, and we have covered a lot of different topics. It's been very hard-hitting. It's been very blunt, practical. That's who James is. Don't blame me. Blame James, the brother of Jesus. But it's been really, I feel like it's been really great. It's been really informative, transformative for some. But we're going to be in James chapter 4 today. We're going to talk about finding God's will. And James chapter 4, verse 13. And I'm going to read a couple verses. We're going to talk. We're going to read the rest. And we'll take a bunch of notes, a lot of notes. And y'all are going to have to listen really fast today, okay? All right. James chapter 4. If you're ready, say I'm ready. James says, now listen. When someone says, now listen, it means you better listen. Now listen, you who say today or tomorrow we will go and do this or that, to this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business, make money. Verse 14, why you don't even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Okay, so there's three things that I see just in these few verses. First, I see, if you're taking notes, write this down. I see that he's talking about the plans of life. We make plans. We're always making plans. How many of you are, admittedly, you're just a planner. You're just a planner. Okay? Have you moved digital, or are you going old school like paper planner? Raise your hand if you're a paper planner. These are vintage people in the room. Paper planners. Okay? I am by nature a planner. My wife, Ashley, is by nature not a planner. She doesn't know until she's in the moment, till she feels the vibes of the moment, you know. So like, where do you want to go eat tomorrow for date night? I don't know. We're not there yet. I'm like, I know. We need to plan where we're going to be. I would plan where I want to be for a restaurant. Even if I didn't feel like that, I'd probably go there anyway, because that was a plan. That was a plan. I can check this off my list. We did the plan. I am less of a planner because who I married. Because I can't be. I just can't. I can't be a full-on planner because I just have to compromise a little bit, you know. But we make plans. We make plans with our life. I mean, you look through just even the first verse, you know. It says today or tomorrow. We plan our time. Today or tomorrow. Plan our times. We plan and manage our times. You see places. We're going to a certain town. We make plans to be in places. Some of you are trying to figure out where are you going to go to school? Where are you going to work? Where are you going to live? Where are you going to drop off your little one when it's time to go to daycare, preschool, or whatever? Where are we going to eat? Where are we going to vacation? We plan our places. And he says, we'll do business there. We plan our work. We got to work. Got to work. Unless you just got a lot of money. Also money. Got to play. It says make a profit. Got to have money. Well, money doesn't buy happiness. It's true. It does buy food and clothing and shelter and deodorant and trash bags. I mean, try to go pay your rent or your mortgage with a good heart and see what they say. But I go to church all the time. Yeah, show me the money. I need that money. So we got to work. We got to make plans. We're always making plans. Proverbs 16:9 says this, though. In their hearts, humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. Nothing wrong with having a plan. Oh, but you got to hold it loosely, don't you? If you're submitting your will to God's will, you can make your plan. God's going to change your plan. I've never talked to anyone that said, yeah, it's so weird. For the last 30 years, my plans and God's plans have lined up. It's awesome. It's never happened. There's no, if anyone ever tells you that, just hit them with a chair, okay? Yeah, sovereignty of God. Number two, the second thing I noticed is the uncertainty of life. He says, why, you don't even know what will happen tomorrow. You don't even know it's going to happen tomorrow. It's like, come on, James, we know. Chill out. Just because you're the brother of Jesus, think you can say whatever you want? We're aware. We're aware that we're not in control, and we don't want to think about it. We want to act like we have a grasp on life, right? The uncertainty of life. My goodness, our 10-year plans, Well, you don't know. It's a really good 10-year plan. I have job security. My boss thinks I'm awesome. I'm creative. I'm an entrepreneur. Doggone it, people like me. Things are going to go my way. It's like, it just hardly ever does. And we got a lot of Christians all over the world that love to sing Jesus Take the Wheel. But they're putting Jesus in the back seat, and they're like, this is where I'm going, and you just make sure I'm okay. Make sure I'm well fed. I'm funded. You can hand me snacks. You can protect it, a hedge of protection around this vehicle. You know what I mean? Jesus take the wheel. No, it's all right. You just ride shotgun. If you could just support my vision, right? Proverbs 3, verse 5 and 6 says, trust in the Lord in all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him. We submit our lives to him. And he will make your paths straight. So, life is uncertain whether we serve the Lord or not. The difference is when we serve the Lord, when we're a Christ follower, we have the Holy Spirit with us to guide us, to comfort us, to help us. So we see the uncertainty of life, but also number 3, the brevity of life. The brevity, the shortness of life. It says, what is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and vanishes. That's what the Bible says about your life. Other translations say a morning fog, a vapor. Your life is a vapor. In other words, you can see it, but it doesn't take long for it to disappear. It's there, then it's not there. A few years ago, I don't do this as very often, but for a while there, I was in a very good routine of on my off day, I would get up really early. I would go fly fishing at a river. It's when we lived in Central Arkansas, and I'd be back by like noon. And when I would get there so early and the fog would be on that river, it was beautiful. I'd be out there like Brad Pitt and a river runs through it. It was awesome. But there was such a thick fog, you couldn't see hardly in front of you. And all of a sudden, 45 minutes later, you're like, it's gone. That's what James is saying about our life. Life is short. It's brief. Logan Patterson, he's our kids' leader. He sent me a video a couple weeks ago, right before I was about to preach. He showed me this video. And it was a video of one of my sons, Mac, 6 years ago hitting wiffle balls in our backyard. I'm like, why did you do that? Why are you trying to ruin my day? And then I get home, and there's a Facebook memory. Facebook brings up these memories. And it's my boys at an OKC Thunder game like 8 years ago. I'm like, what? Life is just, it's going by so fast, and it's temporary. Sometimes we think this is the way it's going to be forever. It's not. It's not. There is going to be an eternal home. So life is short. Life on earth is short. This is our time. Psalm 90, verse 12 says, teach us to number our days, that we may get a heart of wisdom. Our days are numbered. Our days are numbered. So let's keep reading. Those are the 3 things I see in the first few verses. Let's keep reading. It says, what you ought to say is, if the Lord wants us to, we will live and do this and that. So in other words, he's saying, don't be so arrogant to think that your plans are going to work out. Don't boast in your plan. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do here. We're going to go there tomorrow. We're going to do that. We're going to make some money, and this is what we're going to do because I got to figure it out. Because I'm capable. We got money in the bank. No. He said, no. What you ought to say, if the Lord wants us to, we will live and do this or that. Otherwise, you are boasting about your own pretentious plans. And all such boasting is evil. Remember, it is sin to know what you ought to do and then not do it. So one of the most common questions I have gotten over the last 20 plus years or whatever since I've been in ministry is, how do I find God's will for my life? How do I find God's will for my life? Now here's the truth. I assume that when people ask that, they really want to know. The reality is, this is raw reality, a lot of people do not really want to know. Because if God really tells you, you may not like it. Because some people think that if you hear more from God about what he wants you to do, it will feel even better. But the reality is, it doesn't feel better. It feels scary. It feels uncomfortable. It feels like there's no way I can do this. That's what it feels like. Because we know our limitations, but God is bringing us to an impossible situation. Me, being a preacher, is an impossible situation without God. Impossible. If you would have known me back in the day, you would have been like, there's no way. There's no way. That's what you would have said. You would have said it just like that. So the reality is we have to gear ourselves up to even ask the question, a genuine question. I really want to know God's will for my... No, you don't. That's really how I respond now when people, I want to know God's will. You don't really want to know. You couldn't handle it. You better get ready. You better buckle up, So, because God calls us to uncomfortable places. So we have to acclimate even to that idea. Part of spiritual maturity is even being open to God's will for our lives. Because it's going to be more sacrifice. It's going to be more humility. It's going to be more serving others, unselfishness. You go down the list, right? So it's a great thing to desire God's will, and we should. But it can be very uncomfortable. It can be very confusing. There's a lot of fear about missing God's will. You can even think about when you're trying to figure out who to marry when you're single. And it's like, well, I don't know, man, where's the one? We've got to find the one. Where is she? Where is he? There's one person out there. When am I ever going to find him? And then it's like, well, what if I marry the wrong person? If I marry the wrong person, then now I didn't marry the wrong person. I married the right person because now I can't get divorced. I made a covenant, and then really stinks because now I'm married to someone I don't really need to be married to, but I have to be married to them. And then really stinks for whoever I was really supposed to be married to, because now they have to marry someone that they're not supposed to get married to because I married the wrong person. And then kind of stinks for this gal I married or whoever I just married, because they're marrying someone that they weren't supposed to marry. And then the person they were supposed to marry, they can't marry who they were supposed to marry because they... And then if we have kids, we'll probably all have kids. We're ruining future generations, right? Can get confusing. It's like this, it doesn't have to be like that, right? So I want to give you something that will help you as you move along in your life and you try to figure out God's will, okay? So I'm going to draw on this super sticky, easy little pad made by Post-it. We don't get anything for that. So I'm going to try to draw the best target I can right here. And the marker stinks. Shut up. This is the sovereign. Is that spelled right? This is the sovereign will of God. Okay? This is his works. This easel is horrible. This is his works. The sovereign will of God, ain't nothing stopping the sovereign will of God. There's nothing that will stop the sovereign will of God. This is where God flexes. Creation. Birth of Jesus. Even future thing, the coming of Jesus. You ain't stopping the sovereign will of God. You can pray whatever you want to pray. There's nothing stopping the sovereign will of God. Psalm 115, verse 3. Our God is in heaven. He does whatever pleases him. Okay? That's the sovereign will of God. This is the easiest one to understand. Easiest one to accept. We also, the moral will of God. This is his ways. Isn't that beautiful? The moral will of God is his revealed will of God. There are things that God has not revealed. But this is the revealed will of God. Now, the majority, if not all, of the revealed will of God is in God's word. We know God's will by reading his word. We know the majority of God's will for our lives by reading the word. So sometimes we get really fascinated with, I just want to know do I eat a granola bar or cereal this morning? You know, like, what music should I listen to today? What kind of job and what all this stuff? We get fascinated with the specific will of God for our lives and our context. But the reality is the majority of what we need to know about what God requires of us is right here in the moral will of God, which is found in his word. Love God, love people. Don't be jealous. Don't lust. Don't murder people. Don't hate people. Don't be stupid. Be generous. Be kind. Be wise. God's moral will is kind of easy to know. Just open up the word. Start reading the will of God. The will of God. Just being deposited into your life. But sometimes we want to distract ourselves and fascinate ourselves with some other things. When we know the will of God, go love somebody. Go serve somebody. Go encourage somebody. Go forgive someone. You know what I mean? Get involved in your church. Be generous. Be a part of something eternal. Give your life to the gospel. What's the will of God? God's like, I'm giving you more and more access as the year goes by. Just, there's an app on your phone, you know what I mean? Like God's probably like, okay, so the moral will, and then you have like, right here, let's call this the individual will of God. I don't want to write all that. Dang it. We'll just call this his will for your life. Sorry, I did not practice this, obviously. This is all the things that you don't know what to do and you have to make decisions for. And sometimes we wait for more details to come. We want to know. We have all the questions, the when, where, the what, the who, the how. This is also could be like the specific will of God. Some theologians call it the permissive will of God, which is like, this is where God's given you freedom to decide, right? So, where should I live? What college should I go to? What major should I pick? Who should I date? Who should I marry? When should we have kids? How many kids should we have? How many kids that we have should we keep? The ones we keep, should we spank them? How do we discipline them? What church should I go to? What diet should I be on? What kind of car should I buy? Should I buy used, new? Should I get a swagger wagon since now we have 3 kids? Should I tint the windows if I get a minivan because I don't want people to see me? Just all the normal specific things that you ask. What should I eat for dinner? And we get so messed up, like God's taking us on this wild goose chase. It's almost like, God, am I getting warmer? He's like, cold, and hot, Marco Polo. It's like, God, I just want to be in your will, And the reality is, God's like, I don't care. Like, I want you to walk in my ways. So as long as you walk in my ways, I don't know if I care where you live. What's more important is who you are, not where you live. Now, God tells you where to live, that's different. But if you don't know, you got to make a choice. What should my work schedule be, God? I don't care. Just go work, right? So, and sometimes I don't know if you've ever done this, the Bible Russian roulette thing where you're just like, I need a word, I need direction. I'm just open my Bible and the first scripture that pops out, it's going to be a sign from God. And you open it up and it's Matthew 27:5, and it says, then Judas threw the silver coins down in the temple and went out and hanged himself. You're like, oh, no. Let's try this one more time. God, I'm going to give you one more shot. You mix it up. Let's reset. Luke 10:37. Yes, now go and do the same. No! Third time's a charm. Isaiah 20 verse 4. He will make them walk naked and barefoot, both young and old, their buttocks bared. You're like, I don't know. I give up. I don't know. I'm just going to sit here and eat Cheetos. How do I find God's will for my life? And Matthew 6, Jesus says, this is how you should pray. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So I think, just like anything else, God is really concerned with the heart of things. So if we can have that heart, God, I want what you want. I want heaven to come down to earth. We have a lot of freedom here. We have a lot of freedom to make decisions, and we have to. This is what really matters, is having a heart for God's will. Your kingdom come, your will be done. Watchman Nee, he's an author, read a couple books by him. He says, God's purpose is for us to be so filled with his will that we forget our own interest. And today we have an opportunity to turn our hearts towards seeking God's pure and holy will for our lives. And living every day with purpose. And knowing that we're right in the center of God's will. That's what all of us want. We do want to be able to go to sleep every night and go, God, I'm at the center of your will. And I personally have experienced what it's like to step out of God's will, step out of God's moral will, and it's not what I want in my life. You can step out of God's moral will in so many different ways. But we want to align our hearts with God's will. And just like this quote, to be so filled with God's will that we forget our own interest doesn't mean that a life in God's will is uninteresting. It has been the biggest adventure of my life to follow God's will. This gospel, this word, this life, Christ follower life is adventurous and fun and blessing people and serving people and starting church. And it's just amazing. It's a fun thing to be a part of. So I'm going to give you 3 things how to find God's will, and then we'll get out of here. How do I find God's will? Number 1 is to walk in his ways. Right here. Moral will. Walk in his ways. If we will walk in God's ways, God will always lead us into his will. If we will walk in God's ways, like we'll read the word and have a heart for him and do our best to do what he tells us to do and to not do things he tells us not to do and all the things, he's going to lead us into our specific will. He's going to guide us because we're trustworthy. So he's not going to be like, well, yeah, got a heart for me, but you missed it, But sometimes we stress out about God's will. And honestly, if we're going to stress out about anything, we need to be stressed about his moral will. We need to make sure that our hearts are clean and that we're doing the things that we're supposed to be doing, that we're reading the word and actually applying it to our life and being transformed by it. Because we can be like, God, speak to me about my future, but what does it matter if we want God to speak to us about the future if we're not honoring him in the present? Well, what city do I need to live in? What does it matter? What matters more is who you are wherever city God places you. Who are you influencing? Who are you serving? What kind of fruit is coming from your life, is growing out of the seeds in your life? Well, where do I go to college? I mean, the Razorbacks for sure. For sure. We're trending up right now, sort of. And God's like, you could probably just pick a school. But what I want you to do is I want you to be a light in the darkness at whatever school you go to. Who should I marry? What's it matter if you meet the right person if you're not the right person? So we just have to reframe the way we see God's will. God's more concerned about how we live than where we live. And more concerned with who we are than what we are doing. Unless there's something specific that he has asked you to do. Matthew 6:33 says, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness. Okay, so first things first, seek the kingdom and his righteousness. And then it says, and all these things will be given to you as well. And some of you are like, oh, it hasn't happened yet. I've been seeking the kingdom. And I don't have all the things. I get it. It's God's timing, whatever. I don't know. Number two, we walk in his ways. But number two, we work in his will. We work in his will. And what we do know, we work. And what we do know, we work out God's will. Like the worst excuse for not working out is, I just don't really know what to do. I don't know, man. Where do I start? I need some new dry fits. I don't have the right gear. I need a trainer. I need a workout plan. I need an app. What's the best app? What's the best app for working out? It's like, have you never heard of a push-up? It's not hard to know what to do. It's hard to do it. So on what we know, because we know a lot, because all we have to do to know is to read his word. We're called to be faithful to work out God's will. If you are married, you got to work in your marriage. If you're a student, you got to work on your grades. If you're an employee, you got to work at your work. We work in what we know. If you're a leader in the church, we work at being a great leader. We stay faithful with where God has placed us. We make a difference where we're at. And we do God's will where we're at. You apply the moral will of God, his ways, to where we're at and not crave the sensation of a new season. We just stay faithful and consistent. Be a good steward of our time, our resources. We bless people. We serve people where we're at instead of chasing a feeling, chasing something. John 4, verse 34, Jesus said, my food is to do the will of him who sent me and finish his work. He said, what nourishes me and sustains me and energizes me and satisfies me is to do the will of the Father. And then number three, we wait for his wisdom. We wait for his wisdom. Because we do have to figure some things out. We do have to make some decisions, So Ephesians 5 verse 15 says, be careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise. Pastor Austin spoke last week a great message on wisdom. Amazing. If you didn't catch it, if you weren't here, go on the website, watch it. It's great. He talked about wisdom in black and white, but he's also talked about wisdom in the gray. There's so many things in our life that God has not given a direct command or statement about. So we have to figure it out. We have to use wisdom. All of us are the products of the decisions that we make. And so I read a book a long time ago by Andy Stanley it was called The Principle of the Path. And he gives these 3 things on how to make decisions. I'm just going to give them to you. Very practical. It has really helped me. It's really a good framework. The first one for making decisions is considering my past experiences. What is the wise thing for me to do? Considering my past experiences. Like no one has our history but us. We have a unique history, and we have past experiences that predispose us to certain things. It's why we shouldn't judge other people's decisions, but really just focus on what we need to do financially, relationally, morally. So all of our past, the way we grew up, all of it influences certain temptations or certain tendencies. So what's the wise thing to do here? Well, considering my past, like if you struggle with alcoholism, well, considering my past, I don't need to go to certain places because I don't have the discipline that a lot of people have. That may be where you're at. Or if you're a spender, you spend too much money, So considering my past, I don't need to make these financial decisions. Or people that struggle with eating disorders in the past, they need help. Emotional decision makers. So you're just considering your past. What's the wise thing to do here? Okay? So if you know that when you're isolated from people, you get weird. Well then, okay, I need to be around more community. I need some good friends to make sure, if you have a history, if you're single, if you have a history of just bad, unhealthy dating relationships, well, then you have to be more cautious as you move forward. Considering my past. Also, considering my present circumstances. What is the wise thing for me to do? Considering my present circumstances. Like considering your current financial situation. What job should you take? Considering you're married and have 3 young kids. How much should you travel? Considering your wife doesn't want to move to Africa and be a missionary. How much should you pray about that? How much is that a real thing? Considering your values. What should your posture be like? What should your vibe be like at work? Considering your strengths and weaknesses, what's your purpose? So you're just in the present. And then also considering my future hopes and dreams. What is the wise thing for me to do? Future hopes and dreams. If you want to remain pure until you're married, what kind of person should you date? That's a future, it's a dream, it's a hope that God's put in your heart. You want to be the dad, the father that you never had. But you know that you struggle with anger. What's the wise thing for you to do? Just get some counseling, get some therapy. What's the wise thing for you to do? Considering that you want your family to grow up in church, you want your kids to grow up in church. How much of a priority should church be? How involved should we be in church? So you're considering the visions and the hopes for your life. What's the wise thing for me to do? Could this sabotage my future? Could this derail what I feel like God's placed in my heart for us to do, for me to do? What's the wise thing to do here? So that framework has really helped me in the gray areas, and I just wanted to give it to you. So when it comes to God's will, you got the sovereign will of God. It's an unstoppable force. There are things that God can just do. And we don't know, we don't have a say in it. That's His works. The moral will of God, it's where we need to focus most of our attention. The majority of God's will for our lives is found in His Word. And if we could just focus on His Word, focus on His ways, if we walk in His ways, He'll always lead us into His will, His specific will. There are things that we need to do, though. There are things that I'm doing now that are very specific. And I had to pay attention. I had to let God guide me. It's the same for you. There are specific things that God's called you to do. But we prioritize walking in his ways over obsessing about the details. Because if we walk in his ways, God's going to reveal the details. If we can be trusted with his ways, God will entrust us with his specific will for our lives. And we'll just discover it. But let's not be more fascinated with the individual will than we are about the moral will. Because these are his precepts. This is why we take the word seriously. This is why we don't want to just know it, we want to apply it. It's transformative. The Bible does inform, but it also transforms. As we apply it, that's when the transformation comes. So this is how you find God's will. Would you bow your heads? I want to pray for you.